heading down the road. I'm gonna head down to that Whitewater ORV park and just bounce around a little bit. I'm not sure it's actually open because of all the rain we had here. It looked as if it might be actually closed, maybe because they're doing a controlled release of the dam. So I'm gonna just go down, check it out. I'll go around one area, mainly just to test if this system's gonna work holding some things in. Welcome back to another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures. In this episode, I'm going to head down to the ORV park by the Keystone Dam, and I'm going to run around just a little bit with the Forester. I actually do not know if the park is open. It says on Google Maps it's closed. Maybe just parts of it are open, but I want to run it through that obstacle right there. Hey, I'm going to call my friend Warren. He's got a winch and some recovery gear, and Sam, my son, and a pilot, if it's open, and we'll just run around. If you have seen previous images in my videos of this ORV park, you can tell already that the water level is extremely high and parts of the park are flooded. It did end up being open, so here I am running around in the Subaru. And I have to tell you, I just couldn't wait for Warren with his recovery gear or my son Sam, so I ran around after making a call to him to tell him that it was open. And the performance is extremely good. If I were to rate on this type of sand, which is a kind of a granular sand, the performance of the Subaru is fabulous. It's running in some kind of an intelligent mode. And I have to say that if I were to rate this against the Jeep running through the sand, that it's actually a little bit better. I did air down, so I'm down to about 18 pounds. And I'm running through this sand very easy. I'm not having to use momentum. There is a point where I'll get you through some kind of deep, fluffy sand that hasn't been driven on. And there I will have to use a little more momentum, a little more acceleration to power through, and it's pretty obvious. But I would have to do the same thing in the Jeep. So this is a similar path with the Jeep, just a couple weeks earlier. Not as wet, much easier traversing on this packed, dry sand. So we're not going to get that today, but we're going to make a transition here in just a moment back to the Forester. You can see right here we're starting to travel through some fluffy sand right here, and the acceleration is a little bit more needed, but the low lugging of that straight six is pretty powerful. On this more packed trail, you really don't hear the engine of the Subaru. You did a little bit on the Jeep, but it's a louder, bigger motor. But in a moment, when we get on that fluffy sand, you're going to hear the motor of the Subaru. So here is the Jeep on the soft sand. It just goes forward. We're in 4 low right now with the Jeep, and it's just moving pretty smooth, but you do have to give it just a little bit of gas. When we get back over to the Forester, when we get up on this fluffy sand, you're going to hear the motor here. It's not hard to hear through the wind. The high RPMs of the Subaru required to push the torque a little bit higher for that transmission. By the way, you can see the tree line here and the water receded back in the Jeep a couple weeks earlier. Here, that whole area is absolutely flooded out. So, yeah, big water release from all the rains. By the way, I do have my shovel. I got some traction boards and a scissor jack if I get stuck and I need to get out alone. I'm going to head back up and pick up my son, and hopefully Warren will arrive and we'll run around through some more challenging obstacles. Well, there's the Pilot. My son Sam is driving it. He actually has the least time off-roading, so I'm going to lead the way here today. This will be a good test for the Pilot to see what the capabilities are with a off-roader with a least time behind that wheel. So, be a good test for it today. This first area here is some packed clay with some dirt, gravel, a little bit of sand mixed in, a lot of potholes. It's really not much of a challenge. Probably requires just a little bit of articulation in the system, and I think we all just do fine through this area. We're going to head straight ahead. We're going to head for some sand. This whole area really is flooded down in there, and there is a lot of the trails that are closed because the water has crept in back behind the off-roading area. We took most of this driving pretty slow. The Subaru has the lightest suspension. It is not a hardy suspension that's going to handle a lot of force from speed. So we went pretty slow. The Pilot is probably second. It's pretty hardy underneath there, but the 4Runner, it's built for this, and it's going to do quite well, even with a lot of speed and force. But the limiting factor was the Subaru. Right here is some pretty good articulation on the Pilot. You can see it handles the sand with its all-wheel drive system very well. My son said that he only seemed to spin one time, and he engaged the VTM4 locker system and got right out. That big green grassy hill behind is the actual dirt embankment of the Keystone Dam. Everything is really green out here after the rain. If you're wondering why the Pilot looks like it does have a 2-inch lift on it. It does have airbags in the back that lift it a little bit higher in the back and improve the departure angle, but it also limits articulation. There is also a no-low design skid plate on it that protects it, and there is about 9 inches of clearance. There are a lot of people out here today, and it seems like a lot of people caught the off-roading bug, and a little bit later it actually became dangerous, so we just decided to wrap up the video, but we've got some more to do here. We decided to do a little bit of a mud hole. We let Warren go first because he just had a lot more capability. Then went the Pilot, and then we sent the Subaru last. Believe it or not, the Subaru Forester Wilderness Edition does sport some modest underbody protection and 9.2 inches of clearance. However, it is not a 4Runner. I think that the Forester did really well out here. Some off-camber sand. Climbing was good in the sand. There's not a lot of dirt, rocks, or anything out here that's really going to challenge the suspension in terms of suspension travel. It's pretty flat, pretty accommodating surface. But I think the Subaru did good. I'm happy with it. Eventually we stopped down at the end of the flooded point. The point just was not downstream quite as far today because of the extra water being released from the dam, but we took in the cool breeze down here. And Sam had to get going early. He was pretty tired. He pulled an overnight shift last night.
Jump in that water.
Don't do it.
Go.
You're gonna stink, dog.
There's no algae doing anything right now.
I don't know. We got DP, Canada Dry, citrus, something, and Gatorade.
Yeah, I'll try that.
DP?
Okay. I got water in the car.
Okay.
So one of the things I'm testing is, does my strap system work? And the answer to that is yes. Everything stayed put.
I'd say your old fridge is working. This is Warren's old fridge.
When Sam took off with the Pilot, I followed him with the drone just to see how he did getting back up the sand and make sure he didn't get stuck. So that area that's flooded behind the tree line ahead is the way that you access those two hills I did in the Jeep last time, so we cannot do an exact comparison. However, If the ground in that area is still intact, I will come back with the Forester. Here goes Sam up the hill. I think he did pretty good. Here are those two hills that I'm referencing with the Jeep. The Jeep was able to get up these two challenges in about 10 seconds each. So we will bring the Forester back here and see if it's capable of even getting up the hills and time it, see how long it takes. Again, 10 seconds for both of them. Sam enjoyed a nice ride out of the Whitewater ORV Park. The dam is in view. The day is clear. The grass and the trees are nice and green. It was a really beautiful day. The controlled release of water at the dam has limited our access to those two hills. So the only thing that we really can do today in comparison of a climb is between the 4Runner and the Subaru and just trying to get up a little sand hill. That's about all there is left at this point down here. It's a very asymmetrical test between the 4Runner and the Subaru. The other thing that's very asymmetrical is I've got a whole bunch of camping stuff in the back, and when I did this with the Jeep, I had Max in the back. We're going to pack up, load up Duncan, and head up that hill right behind us with the Forester and the 4Runner. For some reason, when I went to record this, the gimbal got jittery. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that we had some fun driving around in the sand today. We didn't do anything radical, nothing too crazy. In fact, sometimes I wonder, as a 50-something-year-old guy, why I'm still making these YouTube videos. But I actually enjoy learning to fly my drone, obviously, recording a little bit of a blog about my adventures. And they're not that exciting, though, as you can tell from the way I drive. Nice and slow and easy. It might have saved a life up here had a dirt bike just cut right in front of my vehicle up around one of these turns. So maybe they should be glad that this 50-something-year-old guy drives slow. Well, thanks for joining me for another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures. This was a great little sand comparison for the Forester, the 4Runner, and the Pilot. We had a blast. I think that this Subaru Forester platform is going to do exactly what I need it to do in the outdoors. I think it's good. I think there's potential to pull my camping trailer. I think there's potential to be able to reach places that are just a little bit more remote, off the beaten path, and that's what I'm looking for. Come back next time. We're going to head to Alabaster Cavern State Park in western Oklahoma and do a little bit of hiking at Gloss Mountain State Park.